Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about volume 7 of Asadora. I love to see it. I love to read it. This volume cover may be one of my favorites in the series, or probably actually my number one favorite volume cover art in the series so far. I love the purple and orange, and I love the contents of this book as well. Absolutely lovely.
Yeah, I love how stoic she looks on the cover. And
True.
then how you have the plane and the kaiju in the back. I mean, it's just a very nice cover. And I agree with you on the colors. It's very Halloweeny to me,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
like
it
the
is the Halloween
Halloween
colors.
colors.
I also like how the photo, the photograph of Asa, like the colors in the background of it, kind of reflect the colors, like the orange and purple of the
Yeah, that's fair.
book
Mhm.
itself as well, which is a nice touch. But anyway, before we get into the character discussions this time, we're going to give like a very brief little summary of the what this volume was. It's something that we're probably going to keep doing for all the Umami Manga episodes from here on out, since we got a comment on one of our recent free rent discussions requesting that, and we thought it was a really good idea, and I think James may have even had a thought like that as well before. So it was a very good, I guess, thing to get us off our asses and actually, I guess, make a change.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a small thing though. Like we're gonna keep it very briefly.
Right.
We realize that obviously those who listen to our episodes have read the volume that we discuss in each episode, so there's no need for
Mhm.
us to go in depth. But just giving a little update on what part of the story the volume in question covers. So volume 7 of Asadora, it starts with the kaiju attack where Lieutenant Kosugi was, at sea, and Asa and Kasuga are making their way to the to the plane so that they can get to the kaiju. Meanwhile, Shota is having a bad time going to the ocean, taking the drugs sadly, and having his whole trip. Asa and Kasuga fight the kaiju and they crash land on the beach. After that whole thing, Asa comes back home and she talks with Miyako, who ran away from home, and her mother comes, and there's that whole scene. But that's the last chapter of this volume. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, just that the next day Shota meets up with Mikey
Right.
and gets more drugs to continue his delusional fight with the kaiju. At least tries to get more drugs. We'll see what we don't actually see him getting the drugs. So we'll see what
Uh,
happens after.
well, yeah, indeed. Yeah. So that's the very end of this volume, precisely. So there was that. Hopefully, maybe we'll get better at doing these summaries. But I think good to get that done, perhaps. So let's dive into the character discussions then, without further ado. Starting with Asa Asada. I think it's a little bit funny how Asa views Shota as a ray of hope, according to the little brief flashback that we saw. When really, I think it's Asa who is the more apparent ray of hope on the world in general, kind of. But I think it makes sense that she would need someone to be her ray of hope as well. So yeah, it's cute that she thinks of Shota that way.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all need a little bit of hope in our lives. Yeah,
Absolutely.
in some aspect.
Hmm.
And I think it kind of puts in perspective Shota's own issues, or at least his own mindset of Asa kind of being his pedestal. So we kind of see how they're both supposedly lifting each other up in a way. However, we see Asa going up and we see Shota going down. So it's almost a contrast
Mm,
in that sense.
for sure, for sure. That's a good point. A sad point, but a good point. uh,
Yeah,
mm,
yeah. I'm glad we're getting this kind of, I guess, development of their relationship, or at the very least how they view each other.
yeah,
Because up until this point, while we had always liked their friendship, we hadn't gotten too much until the previous volume and now this one. So yeah, it's nice to see that relationship develop in any kind of way.
for sure. Even though they didn't get to interact much in this volume,
Right.
we still were given these little things. So yeah, that was very sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, while Asa and Kasuga were fighting the kaiju, well, I guess it was cool to actually see them fighting the kaiju together this time around, which was not the case before. So that was pretty sweet. But during their encounter, we actually, for the first time, got to see the kaiju standing up on its hind legs, just like
Mm-hmm.
Nakaido had predicted that it could.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the kaiju's weak spot was brought up again this volume, and like I get the back thing, like the back, like its weakness is on its back, like I get that, but I still don't really understand the fastener part. Do you?
I is it wearing a girdle? Like I don't know. What is this fastener thing? It to me that sounds like man made. You know
Mm-hmm.
that someone put something on it. Now maybe that's the twist. Maybe that's a twist that someone's controlling it or something like that. But I don't think it can be just a completely man made robotic
Mm.
creature. There's just no way, in my opinion.
Right, and that's fair. I don't know. Is it the spikes that somehow? Because Kasuga seemed when he was talking about it in this volume, it sounded like he knew what he was talking about when he mentioned the weak spot, and like, or like, I don't know. It seemed like it sounded like that to me. Maybe he doesn't fully understand it, but hey, they did seem to successfully attack the kaiju at least. But um,
I mean, is there such a thing as like a organic fastener on a creature's body, of some kind?
I was googling this, trying to find like I was googling like fastener anatomy and like or like various things like that, but I wasn't able to find
Mm-hmm.
anything like that.
Nothing.
No.
Mm.
So yeah, still at a loss.
I'm sure Urasawa's gonna blow our minds, man, at some point.
I hope so.
Otherwise, we're gonna be really disappointed.
Yeah, no, I'm awaiting that mind blowing moment.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Either way, it's definitely a weakness. Like that's a big
yes.
reason why it ends up well, as far as we know, retreating back into the water for now.
Right, it's got to be that, right? Because initially I was a bit confused as to why, after it seemed almost like Kasuga and Asa were kind of at a disadvantage, the plane was kind of malfunctioning and they were crash landing on the beach, or they were
Mm-hmm.
like losing altitude and whatnot. And it seemed to me in the moment that the kaiju would just follow them to the coast,
Mm.
and maybe even wreak more havoc on land. But luckily, it didn't. It just kind of disappeared when they went to land to the beach. But
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I guess you're right. It must have probably been the harm that they caused that made it go away.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
It must have been enough pain to give up at that point.
Right.
But not before, as you said, damaging Asa's plane, which
Mm.
I never expected her plane to get nicked like that.
Mm.
But land safely on the beach. Well, basically land, yeah, safely. Yeah, I say safely.
Yeah. No one was harmed.
The plane wasn't unharmed, but
No.
they were okay.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder if maybe her plane won't be out of commission for too long, but for now, like it doesn't have its wings on it as they
Precisely.
transport it.
Yeah. Precisely. Yeah, it's gonna need some. Well, the wings reattached and some other repairs. So, but I imagine
Yeah,
like since the government is funding all of that, it's probably gonna get done rather quickly. I imagine, or it could at least probably.
that's a good point. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. But yeah, no, that was quite exciting.
yeah,
Especially the crash landing. I thought was especially exciting. It was well done.
yeah. Somewhat reminiscent of her landing the plane back in the beginning of the story in volume 2, wasn't it?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say,
Hmm.
how dare Miyako's mom accuse Asa of not loving her big family or not, not having the same amount of love or whatever.
Right.
Like it's okay, you got
Mm.
a big family, you can lose a few siblings or something.
Yeah. That
I don't know
is.
what she was trying to imply there. Like obviously she was a frustrated mother, and I could see
Mm.
some person saying that without thinking.
Right.
But just still, how dare they
How
say
dare,
that?
indeed. Yeah, no, I know. And I also get like, yeah, in the heat of the moment, I get that something like that could come out of a person like, but still, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's totally wrong and honestly very rude.
Yeah, she's complaining to the wrong person, the wrong woman. Like,
Yes.
Asa loves her family dearly. Like, she can't
Absolutely.
even stop thinking about the family, or has not given up faith that her family is still out there.
Precisely.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that's not love, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that chapter, chapter 51, returning from work, was definitely my favorite chapter of this volume.
Yeah.
And it was that whole thing that really got to me, like seeing how Asa explains to Miyako's mom just how every single one of her siblings is irreplaceable to her. The fact that they are many doesn't diminish their lives' value. Of course it doesn't.
Right.
And and yeah, just how Asa loves each and every one of them. And on top of that, Asa also defended Kinuyo by saying that she is a real mom to her.
Right.
And yeah, seeing her proclaim that was also just really beautiful.
Absolutely.
And I think Asa's emotions in that scene are probably somewhat amplified by the fact that she had just fought a kaiju and like been in a like her plane had crash landed just earlier
Mm-hmm.
that same evening. So like yeah, there's no it's no wonder she's vulnerable and emotional in that scene.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah. It almost seems like Miyako's mom's petty comments are just so trivial and I guess, well, they're just not important compared to the bigger issues that are happening in her life.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, that said, like obviously she cares deeply for her family, so she's gonna take a comment like that seriously. But it's also like, what are you talking about? I'm doing all of this, and then you accuse me of something so petty. Like what? Jeez. But
Yeah.
obviously you can't express that without revealing some things.
Right. Yeah. And while she definitely told her off, she still did it in a respectful way. Like
Yeah,
the way she expressed herself was still respectful and you know nice, all things considered. So that's another thing that I appreciated.
I agree.
Hmm.
I agree.
But anything else on Asa?
No, I'm good.
All right, then let us move on to Shota Hayata, our champion of justice.
Oh man.
I'm sorry for laughing. It is.
I
It's
just
awful. It's awful.
it's pathetic is what it is.
I
I mean,
mean,
it goes from what I say is confusion to feeling sorry for the guy. And there's just one point where Asa's flying over him while he's swinging around in a drugged up hallucination.
mm-hmm.
It's just, I just felt sorry, or not just. I didn't feel just sorry. I was like cringeworthy. Like it was pathetic. Like
Yeah.
it was a very low moment, at lowest moment for him, and he doesn't even realize it yet. Is
Right.
the other crazy part.
For sure. And I mean this volume as a whole, really the entirety of it for Shota is an all-time low for him because it starts off with him running away from his family for the first time kind of, or at least maybe
Mm-hmm.
not for the first time, but running away for that like that I guess that far probably for the first time. Going all the way to the coast and everything because he just finally the pressure got to him. Um, like that low in and of itself I think was quite low, but then obviously yeah the drugs terrible low as well. By the way, Shota is still convinced that it was his family that miscounted the laps. And to be
Mm-hmm.
fair, I think it makes more sense now that that might have been the case actually because of the sheer difference in speed that Shota noticed when he saw Abebe or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Like he realized when he saw his speed that there was no way for him to actually keep up with that. Um, so I think that kind of also explains that Shota was technically behind.
Yeah. I I truly do believe that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I was saying last volume. But I also thought last volume, uh, he wouldn't take the drugs.
Oh,
But
right.
I was definitely wrong about that. And
Yeah.
sure, this is maybe more interesting. Definitely more drama filled.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Oh, yes.
but yeah, it's very disappointing. It's almost as if all the other characters in this story, yeah, they have some sort of drama, but it works out in the end. That really hasn't happened for Shota. Nothing has worked out for him.
But in the end, it will. Huh?
Well, I have faith that it should be a happy ending, right?
Right. John Lennon once said that everything is going to be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end.
It's not
So,
the
words that I
end.
live by.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah, so I believe there are eventually good things to come for the boy, but
Yeah, yeah.
it is disappointing when, to me, you have these characters that have all these dreams and they're fulfilling their dreams. Yeah, sure, there's some obstacles in the way, but they're still working towards them. And with Shota, it feels like no matter what he does, he can't reach that, which is honestly realistic.
I suppose.
Because not everybody can make the dream that they have.
Hmm.
But it kind of sucks that, to me, is like Shota's the only one that can't.
Aw.
Because obviously you have Asa.
Hmm.
She's making her dreams of flying and helping people come true. Yone, is that her name?
Yeah.
She's becoming the singer that she's wanted to be. Miyako is trying to become a wrestler. Obviously, she has the obstacle with her mom, but I don't know. I feel like that's gonna be gonna be okay in the end. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but it just seems like Shota's kind of got the short end of the stick here.
I mean, it is true that he has been facing more obstacles than the others, probably, like, all things considered. Or, well, it depends on how you see it, I guess. I mean, Asa lost most of her family.
You're right. You're right.
But at least, yeah, he has been facing a lot of obstacles regardless. And now, yeah, he buckled under the pressure and took those drugs at the beach. So
Exactly.
I believe he took at least 15 of those pills, by the way. I tried to
Oh, you
count
counted
them.
them.
Yeah. because Mickey had said that if Shota would just take a single one, he would probably get addicted or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Or he said like he would have him or something like that. But he took about 15 at least of those. So yeah, that's terrible. Like at first I thought he was legit gonna die from an overdose. Like
Yeah.
it was that bad, or it seemed that
Ooh.
bad, and it was really
Mm-hmm.
bad. But then he just started tripping hard.
They're not even performing enhancing drugs.
No, no, apparently not.
Like that was the whole point of it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a good. Like, I mean, that's a twist.
Oh yeah.
I would say good twist. It's a twist.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in that, no, these aren't your performance enhancing drugs. These are actually drugs. These are drugs that will, put you on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is that at the beginning of the story, we had a case of drugs, right? Where
Right. That's
someone
right.
was smuggling drugs. I don't know if there's any connection between this and that.
Hmm.
Uh,
It seemed like different drugs, because I believe it was like probably cocaine or something back then.
well, by the way, the name that Mickey gives it is Nantoka
Nanto Karen or something like that. At least that's how I read it.
Nantoka-din.
Yeah.
Nantoka means something something or so and so. So
Oh,
it's not an actual name.
right. And I did actually Google the name of it, and I got 0 hits on Google. So that makes sense. That makes sense. That actually makes me feel like they should have translated that somehow. Then maybe if it's that specifically, if it means something like that specifically,
Yeah,
maybe.
I would think, and usually this volume is pretty good at stuff like that. Having a little asterisk or a footnote saying, "Oh,
True.
he doesn't really know the name, or he's just making it up or something."
Right.
or maybe there's something I that will happen in the future with that name. I don't know, but
I
to me,
suppose.
it seemed like a pretty clear pun.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you for clearing that up, though.
So when he swallowed the swallow when he swallowed the salt water,
Yeah.
I thought, or at least my second time, I was like, well, maybe the hallucinations were caused by the salt water. Uh,
Oh.
but you have to be well, salt drinking salt water. Well, drinking salt water
Mhm.
can cause hallucinations. You got to be drinking a good amount and also
Mm,
somewhat dehydrated for that to have effect.
right.
And I don't think that was the case. Maybe he was a little bit dehydrated from all the running, but I don't think that would have caused him. And he didn't drink
Uh,
nearly enough.
right. True.
So
True.
uh, that kind of theory is out the window. It certainly had to be the Nantakarin that was giving him the trip. Man, it's rough.
Really rough. Absolutely. And while obviously I'm glad that he survived all of that, he
Yeah.
lived. uh
Hmm.
he's still quite messed up from it, even though like he's not high anymore. He's still like he's delusional and he's possibly addicted already. So it's very bad.
Yeah, it seems like he's found a way to be a hero, to be a hope, a beacon for people. Obviously he hasn't, but that's what he thinks.
Mm,
Um, and I think he's grasping onto that because he's he's basically given up hope that he could ever, you know, be a marathon Olympic medalist. At least that's how I see it. I mean, he's not in his running gear anymore. He's pretty set on getting more drugs.
mm.
Um, and yeah, it's not looking good at all.
Not at all. And especially or like something that really that I kind of really disliked about this whole thing is when Shota spots Mickey at the end of the volume, you see him smiling. Like that's his reaction to seeing Mickey's face is Shota smiling because he knows that this is a guy that can maybe provide me with drugs. And then at the very end of that whole thing, when Mickey says that he can get Shota more drugs, that then he smiles again. And those seeing that smile is obviously a really bad sign.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were going into the time skip, like volume 3 or so? We hadn't seen Shota yet, and I was like saying how I was worried something bad may have happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he made some wrong choices. Uh, and then we come to see that he's still running and stuff like that. But now we kind of get to what I was thinking back then, is that the pressure of becoming an Olympic runner
Right.
and given to him by his family and put on himself uh, has caused him to make mistakes,
Right.
or at least this mistake so far. Um, so I wonder if that is truly the path that he's going to go down, and he may not have an actual redemption, so to
Ooh.
speak, until
Ooh.
later.
Or oh, okay, you added that. I was thinking like until never when you started saying that.
Yeah,
But
no, I don't think it would be never. I don't think that's this kind of
I
story.
really hope not, and I ultimately don't think so either. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's exciting and definitely rooting for this boy.
Just a couple other things that I wanted to mention that probably added to the the stress that he's putting on himself. Uh, he was thinking of Asa, and he says, "I can't make you happy," which is such a self defeating mindset,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you care for someone as much as he does. At least I feel like he does.
For sure.
And it's tough because you see someone who's so incredible, so amazing, and then you look at yourself and you feel like a failure. It's hard
Yeah.
not to compare yourself and almost feel like you're inadequate.
Right.
Uh, but as we were saying before, Asa sees him not as a failure or as someone who's inadequate, but as someone that gives her hope.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you got to put yourself in other people's shoes to see your own self.
Right.
But yeah, that's a lesson that he may have to learn later on.
It's coming. But actually, and related to that, when he was recalling, like, well, when he was thinking about Asa, he recalled some words that she had said to him in the past, and some of that
Mm-hmm.
was about them living by the sea in Shibata,
Oh.
which I reacted to because to my knowledge, they hadn't been in Shibata. They used to live in Nagoya, and so I looked up Shibata in Japan. Apparently, there's two different towns slash cities in Japan that are coastal and that are called Shibata. They're both quite a bit north of Tokyo. Meanwhile, Nagoya is west of Tokyo, so it must have been a
Mm-hmm.
different location. And so I wonder if that means that Asa and Shota lived for a while in this place called Shibata uh, after Nagoya was destroyed in the Izuwan typhoon, because maybe they didn't have a home there anymore, so maybe they lived in Shibata for some time before going down to Tokyo,
Mm.
like over the time skip or during the time skip. I feel like it's got to have been something like that, possibly, unless they lived there when they were really young before moving to Nagoya. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like I feel like they did live in Shibata. Like that's where like Shibata is like just a town in Nagoya, I feel like.
Okay, because when I searched at least on Wikipedia, I couldn't find anything on that. But maybe it is something like that. That would definitely make it simpler. Maybe
Yeah,
not
yeah.
as strange.
Shibata-cho, it's a
Ah,
port part of Nagoya.
okay, awesome. Thank you. Cool, good.
Yep.
Now we know that. All right, so it wasn't anything strange then.
It's where Legoland is, by the way. Legoland in Japan at least.
I see.
Anyway,
Fun.
yeah.
Well, what's more on Shota?
So just one little funny thing about his Kyodai design.
Yeah.
The kanji for sho is on his chest and I think his head as well.
Ah.
Uh, so it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of a funny design, righteousness, like,
Yeah. That's
kind of a thing.
that's funny.
Truth.
Right, right.
But
Oh man.
yeah, that's all I have.
All right, then let's move on to some smaller characters of this volume. And I want to start by bringing up Mickey a bit.
Okay.
So we learn that he's working for some older fellow. And by the way, I thought that the fake out was pretty funny with how it initially looked like that guy was getting a blowjob, but it turns out he was just getting a pedicure. You know what I mean?
uh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Anyway, just a small little funny fake out, I thought, anyway. But yeah. We already kind of brought up the name of the drug. I was going to ask if you had any thoughts on that, but you already gave them. Um,
Hmm.
but it's clear that Mickey just doesn't really care to know much about the drug.
Apparently
Like
not.
he just can't be asked, kind of. Which also obviously is a bit worrying.
Hmm.
And apparently the drugs have horrible withdrawal symptoms, and yeah, I guess we're starting to see that a bit.
Mm. It's just why?
Mm, mm,
Why did it have to be this terrible drug?
right. Yeah, why indeed.
You better be going somewhere with this, Urasawa. But
In Urasawa we trust, right?
yeah, he's the master mangaka.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
I'm sure. I'm sure he does. Moving on, then maybe to Miyako. So she ran away, and it's not. She's not just copying Yone, but it's because her parents aren't letting her continue wrestling. But Ginko Kongo did express that she thinks Miyako has talent for this. So
Yeah,
hopefully her parents will
that's a plus.
let her continue after having heard that, and not just that, but also after having heard Asa and Kinuyo in that scene. What they had to say on that whole matter. I think
Yeah,
I believe actually had a positive effect on Miyako's mom.
yeah, I want to believe that too, for sure.
Mhm.
I guess just briefly on Ginkgo is that
Huh?
she's great,
Oh yes.
and I hope that her and Kinio have a great friendship. It seems like
Right.
Ginkgo is like, hey, I'll come by sometime. It's like, great.
I'd love to see more of
Good.
that for sure. uh, then let's talk a little bit about Lieutenant Kosugi. Um, so his role in this volume wasn't as prominent as I'd expected it would be. I had some hopes that this guy may potentially even get to interact with Asa and get involved into the main story a lot more. However, he still seems very eager to confront the kaiju, though. Like, even though his part in this volume was very brief, he still seems determined.
Where was his part again?
It was like the very beginning, kind of. Um, he asked his captain or his superior or something that if they would like approach the kaiju, but the captain or whatever the guy just decided to retreat instead. And Kosugi did seem disappointed in that decision. Um, so the way I'm reading this character is that he's still very determined to find out more about this kaiju. So I'm sure that he still has a role to play.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the kaiju damaged the ship quite noticeably, so I reckon all of that's got to lead somewhere, and I'm sure Kosugi will be there for it
True.
in one way or another.
Yeah.
So yeah, not giving up hope on Kosugi.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if. Well, I mean, he's still a military guy, so maybe he wouldn't be keen on giving out secrets like this. But I would be surprised if the reporter tried to reach out to him.
Right, actually, yes, the reporter made a brief comeback
I
here.
knew he'd be back.
So that was fun, albeit very briefly.
Do you want to know what's interesting?
What's interesting?
Or maybe we already knew this or not, but you could tell me if you did.
What's that?
The paper that Mikey is giving out is the paper that the reporter reports on.
Right. I did notice that, and
Okay.
so and it makes sense that of course.
Did we already know that?
If we already since before this volume, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't say for sure, but I noticed at the end of the volume here. Yeah, and because it only makes sense that it would be that guy's article that would be
right.
reporting on this thing. So yeah. But he didn't get any information from Mr. Keizo Izuka because the government had scared him into silence, which is honestly very frightening, I think. Like, the effect they had on that poor old man. Like, I get it, but I don't know. That I don't like that kind of like authority, kind of scaring people into silence like that. It's really unsettling. But I mean, it has a good effect on the story here, of course.
I don't think we'll see him ever again, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, like the old man. No, I doubt that too.
Yeah.
But the reporter can surely come back more, I reckon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. And the Keiichi Nakaido made an appearance as well. The poor guy had to deal with Jisoji and those other suits that don't appear to really be doing anything important. Uh, but yeah, I don't have much on that though.
Nah, I mean, I guess I'll throw in that from those big suits, the self defense force ship was damaged pretty badly, and they're hiding it at did it say Yokohama or was it Yokosuka?
Well, I don't
They're
remember
hiding it in one
where.
of the
Right.
ports um, at Yokosuka,
Mm.
and they just don't want anybody to know there's any damage. But I have a feel like that. I have a feeling that it's gonna be tough to completely hide that.
For sure. Absolutely. And especially now that, like, sure, like, I don't know what kind of reputation the newspaper has that published the article about the kaiju. I
Mm-hmm.
guess depending on that, like, yeah, we can know for sure. But if it has any kind of credibility, then I reckon that news article may get people curious and raise people's awareness of this whole thing, so that even more may reach the public's attention.
Mm.
Um, like it may be kind of like something that kicks off a lot more things, perhaps, like for the general public to
Mm-hmm.
find out. But we'll see, we'll see. But do you have any other characters you want to bring up?
Nope, I think we covered everything.
Great. I wish I had more to say about Kasuga. I feel like this, and maybe even the previous volume as well, didn't give too much on him. Like he was around, but not
Yeah, I mean, he's still doing his thing.
doing his thing. But like I wish
He was
we
the
could
one who
talk about
fired
him
the
some more.
rocket.
He was. It was a good hit. But yeah, just love Kasuga. Just wanted to say that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Just because we don't talk about him doesn't mean that we don't love him. It's just
Mhm.
there was nothing truly new for him.
Right. Very well. Then moving into predictions. And I don't have too much, but I'll start by saying that bringing up the air traffic control tower at Chofu Airfield,
Okay.
we've seen those two guys now a few times, where there's like supposedly one boss guy and one subordinate guy, kind of, where the boss guy seems to basically buy into, or not buy into, but he seems to be aware that they should let this plane pass whenever, like, he isn't asking questions, he's not making a deal out of it. But the subordinate is like a bit, well, it seems like he's getting progressively more curious, or like feeling that it's wrong to do this, like, because he doesn't seem to understand that, or well, what is there to understand? I don't know. Either way, the guy who is not in charge there, I wonder if he's going to cause some type of problem,
Hmm.
because he's been seeing this plane going up and down now multiple times without any official authorization. So I feel like he could be one of the little things that may bring things to the surface for the general public, perhaps, or at least somehow do something. Um,
Yeah,
mm,
that's interesting you bring it up because I only ever saw it truly as just a comedic thing. That being said, uh, with the reporter being introduced,
right.
I did I did start thinking, okay, there's going to start being some more uh sleuthing into what's happening with the kaiju, and I'm sure the reporter is going to at least at least this reporter is going to start asking some of these side characters what they know.
Mm,
And I wondered if he would find, or I was predicting that maybe he would find out about the self defense force ship somehow, whether it be from one of the Coast Guard people, or he just somehow sneaks around and finds it because
right.
he's done that before.
For
Um,
sure.
but who's to say that he doesn't meet up with this air control guy,
Right.
um, who is kind of the whistle to what's going down.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the probably not so credible nature of this newspaper is going to keep this whole kaiju story under wraps for a while. I feel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, probably ultimately, because based on what we know about this reporter, he is awfully sketchy. So, an a truly serious newspaper probably wouldn't hire a guy like him.
Well,
I guess that's presumptuous of me to say.
I actually think what makes it more sketchy is the fact that Mikey is handing out the newspapers.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like
true, true.
a guy like that handing out papers is just not something that you would want.
Yeah, yeah.
You probably want a little bit more of a background history for a good paper, maybe. I don't know. But
Maybe.
regardless, I don't expect the story to gain incredible traction. I'm sure it'll get more attention,
Mm.
but probably won't gain too much traction until later on in the story.
Right.
Whether, I mean, eventually I think it's leading up to the fact that a kaiju will attack Tokyo
Right.
in 2020.
Uh-huh.
So there's no denying that at that point. Whether Tokyo knows about this kaiju beforehand or not
Mm.
remains to be seen, but I don't think it will be quite as obvious or as well known throughout the country until uh, it's too late, maybe.
Right, either that or at the very least later in time, because I also get the feeling that for this to actually become like public knowledge to everyone already in the 1960s seems a bit too early, just narratively,
Absolutely.
kind of.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I also reckon it's going to happen later.
Yeah.
That in combination with well, what the characters are like that have any type of connections to this newspaper, it all
Mm-hmm.
makes sense that the article won't gain too much traction, even though I'm sure it's gonna gain some.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. I think this volume really rounded off this conflict very perfectly, kind of. Like right now, the story is not like it. We're at a very kind of well, the part that the story is at right now isn't anything special. Like we literally just got home. um,
Mm-hmm.
so because of that, it's a bit hard to like come up with what's gonna happen in the near future, at least to me. Well, besides what we've already said, at least. And because of
Mm-hmm.
that, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of a time skip in the next volume.
Oh, now you're the one who's predicting the time skip.
Yes, this time I am. And let me be wrong or right.
Watch it happens. It happened. Just watch.
I mean, because I don't know, because I just feel like it could, because there isn't anything else going on necessarily in the present day.
Ah.
Uh, like I feel because I felt like a lot of the threads that we have in the story currently, I don't think a few years time skip would hurt any of that at the moment. So perhaps next volume we'll see Asa Asada enter her 20s, maybe.
To be honest, that's what I thought earlier, and then the monster came back, so it's like, okay, well,
Right.
I guess I'm wrong there.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I looked it up,
Huh?
and the Olympics ended, I believe, on October 24th.
Oh, right. The Olympics aren't even over yet.
They're not over yet.
That's okay.
And
Yeah.
the newspaper says October 22nd, so there's still 2 more days.
Right.
And I mean, look, maybe the monster goes away, it leaves it 2 days away. I mean, that's definitely possible. But they are still trying to protect the Olympics to make sure the peace is not disturbed in that sense. So
True, true.
I could also see there being maybe at least, I think it would have to be no more than one more time the monster may attack. But that being said, the plane is currently damaged. They need to repair it. How long that will take? Well, you mentioned that the government will have their people working on it, so it could be quicker than maybe uh, we would usually assume. But enough to, I mean, would they get it done in one day? Maybe it's like a last minute. Okay, it's fixed. Go, go, go. Kind of a thing.
Right.
But I don't know. I think just for the sake of being different and to dig my own grave, I'll say there's gonna be one more attack from the monster before the Olympics end. That is my prediction.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I like that. And thank you for reminding me that the Olympics aren't actually over yet, because I do ultimately think that we'll see the Olympics end before we move on to a new time period or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
However, that could be briefly. Like maybe there is just one or two chapters left of this time, yeah, in this time,
Mm.
and then so it would still mean that we may move on to the next age in the next volume. Um, and yeah, I guess I'll stick to what I said actually, that it's not going to be like immediately in the next volume, but during the next volume we will switch over to the next age. And I don't think there will be another kaiju confrontation for Asa before the time skip, or at least not before
Uh-huh.
the Olympics is over.
Yeah,
Um, so I'll say that.
fair enough. I mean, my track record with this in predicting this manga has been terrible compared to you. So, you know, I've been wanting a time skip for a while,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm winning either way here.
Right,
Uh,
precisely.
but
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I'll be different, I guess, or than what I usually say.
That's fun. I approve. Anything else you want to predict?
Yes. So going back to the reporter
Hmm?
in terms of people who he could talk to, because I'm still thinking that there's more to this time and this part of the story. I'm wondering if Shota will reach out to him to get more information about the monster, and maybe even just tell him, like, look, I'm fighting the monster,
Mm.
a hand to hand combat. Uh, and I don't know how gullible the reporter is. Uh, maybe he'll eat it up. Maybe he'll look at the wound and be like, "Oh man, maybe you're right." or or we have another moment of Shota just totally embarrassing himself,
Mm.
like gulping down more pills in front of the reporter when they
Oh
have a kaiju
man.
sighting, and just
Oh.
going, just another pathetic showing. I don't know, but regardless, I feel like they could have an interaction,
Mm-hmm.
in some way.
Right. And well, speaking of Shota gulping down more pills, I assume Mickey's gonna charge him for more pills,
Yeah,
from here on out. So
somehow.
he's gonna need money, and I imagine it's not gonna be super cheap. So does Shota have that kind of money, or is he gonna like do some shady things somehow in order to get that money? Like
I
this
don't know,
could be a
man.
really dark spiral that he's in right now.
That's why I don't like it.
Hmm.
I mean, I like it like drama, but it's like, why him?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I don't know if I want Shota to save himself or if Asa should do it.
Mm.
Because on the one hand, like I like the idea of reaching out and helping others, but the other, I like someone being able to, somehow pull themselves out of the gunk. Well, I guess more so than that, I feel like it would be nicer if Asa didn't have to know that all this happened.
Oh.
Not that I really think she would hate the man ever, but
No, no.
I just I just don't want that moment where he's confronted or is placed in front of Asa and he's just this miserable drug addict. Like I don't want to see that.
Right.
Uh, but if he gets to that point, then I'm sure it'll be a beautiful moment, right?
For
It's
sure.
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying I don't want to see things, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, I'm sure it'll be great. It's like,
I mean, I'm sure it would be beautiful narratively, and I'm sure it would also, for Asa to learn about it, would probably also ultimately for the better, because then she would actively be able to start helping him. And for as long as she doesn't know, for as long as she's unaware, then there's nothing that she can do.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, and actually, this reminded me of something I read about something that Urasawa had said about, well, his conception of this story. I can't remember. I don't know if for sure if I've said this on the podcast before or not, but I'll say it anyway, that Urasawa supposedly decided to make the protagonist of Asadora a girl because he finds, or he expressed something along the lines of that whenever he makes his protagonist a guy, the story usually goes really dark for whatever reason. That's just his experience with it. So he decided to make it a girl this time in order to try to maintain this hopeful kind of positive thing for the protagonist at the very least. But
Mhm.
maybe he's not, he's struggling with Shota in that kind of way, and that's why
It must be.
that's why Shota is ending up the way he is right now.
I mean, on the one hand, this means, yeah, it's going to have some sort of hopeful ending, right? You know,
Right.
there will be this redemption. I mean, I haven't read all of his stories. I haven't read most of his stories, to be honest. I
Right.
do want to see Pluto, though, although
Yeah, me too.
that's a little different piece. But anyway,
Mm-mm.
point is that I feel like this is going to have a hopeful ending. But on the other hand, like you said, this is a male character who's spiraling into a drug addiction, basically.
Yeah.
You know, this is a dark turn for him, and I hope that I hope eventually it turns out all right, and that he's not a doomed character entirely. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I do think that they're gonna have some sort of meeting with each other again, and maybe not just happenstance. I think if he's gonna try to find the kaiju, and surely Asa will be there, and there was already a couple of moments where it feels like she potentially saw him.
Right, and he saw her plane from the ground,
Yeah, I mean, well, he knows
fighting
for
the kaiju.
sure that
Right.
she's
Uh-huh.
she's fighting the kaiju,
Yeah.
which is part of the reason why he's become obsessed with this idea of fighting, because he's like, oh, he's by her side helping her. You know,
Mm.
he's making a difference. You know,
Yeah.
um, regardless, like, I think that could be a moment where Asa notices Show, and that that could potentially lead to something. I don't know
Right.
uh, if that'll happen before or after a battle. That's why I feel like maybe there could be one more battle with the monster
Mm.
if Shota's able to get his hands on the drugs again.
Ah.
Then there can be that confrontation. She finds out that something's up with him,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
they go their separate ways.
God. Yeah. I mean,
Like maybe they have a fight or something.
ooh. Ooh. I wonder. Yeah. I mean, either that, I guess, or if they just meet up, in a non hostile environment, or without a kaiju necessarily, the two characters just meet up, and Asa asks him what he was doing at the beach because he saw him there.
Oh, I guess that's a potential as well.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, well,
Although she wasn't sure. Like she said, oh, it looked like him, and then
true.
Kazuka is like, what are you talking about? Of course he's not there.
Yeah. Right, but she seemed rather sure, like, at least yeah, she thought she saw him, so she would probably ask him about it if they see each other, and then I guess we'll see what he would say to that, if we even get this. But yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then my last prediction is it's more of a curiosity. We're still getting the "I Love You" song, and I know we bring it up every time, but
Hmm.
it just becomes more and more apparent that the we got to know who sings a song, and also it has an importance for her.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's going to play any sort of role in her relationship with Shota.
Huh.
Um, in that, what if somehow, this is very cheesy, but what if somehow that song kind of saves Shota at some point, like calms him down or something like that? I
Oh,
don't know if is he aware of that song? I
I don't
don't
know. No,
know.
I'm not sure actually.
Like maybe that could be a good moment for them down the line,
Right.
uh, when they repair. Well, when if they're repairing a relationship or they're seeing each other for a long time, or there could be various scenarios.
For sure.
Point is, I feel like that song could be a good like a couple song for those two.
Yeah, that would be cute. And just in general, yeah, I would also really like to see the song play more of a role maybe in the story, other than Asa really liking the sound of it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all I have.
wonderful. Well, this series just keeps on delivering. At least I think so. It stays a solid 9 out of 10 in my book. It's absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely.
I can't remember where I put it. It's always. I think I said this last time too. I think I go back. Each volume goes like 7 or 8, 7 or 8,
Ah.
7 or 8. I think with this one, the drama is so juicy
Hmm.
that I tempted to give it an 8, but I'll say an 8.
Sweet. I'm glad to hear it. And yeah, like for me again, like it was like especially that last chapter of this volume that really, really affected me, like emotionally. Like it was so beautifully done. Like the whole last chapter. I mean, the volume itself was great as well, but just like there was something very, very special to me about that last chapter.
Yeah, when the cigarette smoke came out of Mikey's nose and
Oh
Shota
no!
was smiling, that really got me.
Hey, stop it!
Got me teary eyed. So beautiful.
No, you're ruining this whole thing.
No, I know what you meant.
Well, yes, no, it's great. Yeah, damn you, Mickey. Well, he'll get what's coming to him eventually. I imagine, maybe, potentially. And I guess that's it for this week, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. Then, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel, Umami Manga, on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 8. Bye-bye!
See you later. I just realized I kept calling him Mickey or Mikey when it's Mickey.
Oh, I didn't even notice. It's close enough.
Hey kid, want to take some drugs?
Oh, no.
It'll make you high. I mean, really tall. Oh boy.
Gosh.